Alrighty. Hello there, folks. Here we are. It's Wednesday night. Today I'm having the good fortune of speaking with Mr. Charles Boswell. Some of you will have already met Charles Boswell over on Ripper's channel. He is running for Hillsborough County Sheriff. Now, I know a lot of you are wondering, Hillsborough County, yes, folks, that's where Big Cat Rescue is. So that's somewhat why we're interested in this, but I am actually a lot more interested in Mr. Boswell because of the particular justice he's fighting for a young lady, or well, a lady named Megan White. And we're going to be talking about that today, and we're going to be talking about his run for sheriff there in Hillsborough County. Folks like to go ahead and try to help what we can and talk to our friends in Florida and get his name so that they know it, at least. At the very least, we'd like that, right? So if we can get his name on people's lips in Florida, that would be awesome. And as I said, the reason why I really like him is because he's got to fight for justice here over something pretty despicable that happened with Megan White, who I was talking about. But I'm gonna go ahead and let Charles here tell you about himself, his run for sheriff, and some of the things that he's that are his big issues and why he wants to run for sheriff.
Well, thank you. My name is Charles Boswell. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm running for sheriff of Hillsborough County against Chad Chronister. I'm sure some of you have heard of him. His name's been put out there a little bit for the Tiger King. He's currently the sheriff of the county where that case unfolded, or part of that case unfolded, in regards to Carol Baskin. And Sheriff Chronister's been on the media quite a bit in regards to that case. So I'm his opponent. I'm a retired detective from the sheriff's office, and some of the things that were going on at the sheriff's office have led me to run against him. And we'll see what happens in the primary on August 18th.
Right. Absolutely. And obviously some of those things that were going on at the sheriff's office would be the things going on with Megan would be among those.
Well, there's a lot going on at the sheriff's office.
Right.
But, that was one of the things that involved me that I'm unfortunately I'm aware of. And it was an egregious case. Right.
So to talk about that a little bit, I remember you were talking about this with Ripper that they had originally, there was, I guess, another case besides Megan's where they wanted you, or they would have preferred for you to testify a certain way. Is that what it was? What it came down to?
Yes, that was the trigger to it. In 2013, I was a homicide detective, and I sat in on an interview where another detective committed a constitutional violation that was captured on tape. Essentially, he promised a suspect in the case that if she were to confess to her involvement, then she could leave, that she were free to go home. And that led to her confessing to the case. I spoke out against it. Actually, I just recommended that they not arrest her. I advised against the arrest, and they chose not to listen to my advice.
Right.
Arrested her anyway. A year later, they wanted me to testify, say things that weren't truthful, that were comfortable with tape.
Right.
And I refused to do so. I testified truthfully. As a result of that, her statement was suppressed, and I was subsequently targeted for retaliation.
Oh, wow. Well, I got to say, I like your integrity. So that's one of the things I dig. So at this point now, you have refused to, I guess we'll say, for lack of better words, you refused to play ball on that particular case.
Well, in their words, I wasn't a team player.
In their eyes, right.
In their words, they actually
in their words too.
I wasn't a team player.
Right. Okay. I think Team Justice would want you on their side, but so now this happens. They're obviously upset with you, and so what do they do? What did they start doing now that they're upset with you?
They started doing a series of things, but the easiest way of putting it is they essentially started gaslighting. They started creating rumors themselves and launching investigations on the rumors they started. That ultimately developed into them reopening closed cases of mine and tampering with the cases, and then launching investigations on me based on the false issues that they themselves had created behind my back. Issues that didn't exist, other than the fact that they made them up and they were lies.
Right.
And so that's what they did.
Right. Like one involved, I think, a polygraph that never happened was one of those that they made up.
Well, that was Megan White's case. That was one of the cases they reopened behind my back. And in that case, she had a 5-month-old son that was severely shaken. It's pretty serious injuries. This little guy had was called black brain. He had brain damage from his brain bouncing back and forth as a result of being shaken.
Right.
He was blind in both eyes. He had a lacerated liver, and I believe it was either 26 or 27 broken ribs. I'd have to go back and look at the report. It was so long ago, but it was horrendous.
Pretty bad.
And after investigating that case, we for all intents and purposes had a confession from the individual that was involved in it. That in conjunction with medical evidence, it was a very, very strong case. We were able to get a warrant for this individual, and after the case was closed, a individual at the sheriff's office, a high-ranking individual at the sheriff's office, had the case reopened behind my back, and they targeted Megan for incrimination as the suspect, even though she was provably at work when all this occurred. But they did. And that's essentially what they did. They targeted an innocent person to create a facade that I had arrested the wrong individual. So,
just to cast shadow of a doubt on you, right?
Notwithstanding the fact that we had medical evidence proving that he was the sole caretaker of the child at the time the injuries were inflicted, and notwithstanding the fact that he admitted to being the sole caretaker, notwithstanding the fact that he admitted to inflicting the injuries, and notwithstanding the fact that he fooled the mother in regards to those injuries, they still thought it to be wise to target the mother to make it seem like she was actually the one who had done these things. Again, she was provably at work at the time, but that's what they did.
That's just bizarre. I mean, that's just bizarre. I mean, it's sad. I mean, I was reading her complaint too, and it's just sad because she's not getting any luck in the courts either. The courts are basically just going, yeah, well, finality doctrine. We don't want to bother with this, kind of thing. They're just like, nah, you know what, this is over with. And it's like I'll put it this way, it was an interesting thing because when I first started reading the decision for her filing, it started out where they were talking about like, there was a lot of reasons why she, was bringing this, and there was a lot of, essential validity and everything. And then all in the end, it all falls apart because of some like procedural bar, essentially. Like, it was just so sad.
Well, what was interesting about that particular doctrine was the judge asked the attorneys to write an opinion on that doctrine. So you had 3 attorneys here. You had 3 sets of attorneys. You had my attorney, who was arguing. You had the attorney for the sheriff's office who was arguing the case, and you had a separate attorney for an attorney who got involved in it, who did some things behind the scenes. So you had 3 sets of attorneys. So my attorney essentially said, this doctrine doesn't bar her from going forward. The sheriff's office, the sheriff's office attorney argued that this doctrine doesn't prevent her from going forward. And in fact, excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
It's been a long day for me. I've done a lot of talking today. But,
right. It's after 9 for you, so I imagine it has been a long day.
It's been a long day. But at any rate, the sheriff's office attorney conceded that this doctrine didn't apply to Megan. And in fact, her damages could be enhanced through this doctrine. And then the state attorney's attorney said, well, it could apply. Perhaps it applies, but it's not definitive. So you had two sets of attorneys, one who was my attorney saying this doctrine doesn't apply. You had the sheriff's office attorney. His clients had done all these horrible things to incriminate Megan. He conceded that this doctrine didn't apply, and that in fact her damages would be increased, or could be increased. And then you had a separate attorney who was defending a state attorney who involved herself in this situation and did some very unethical things, saying, well, perhaps, but I'm not really sure, was her argument. And then you had a judge coming forward going against all that and saying, oh yes, this absolutely bars her from going forward. And then he sealed the nail in the coffin. It was unbelievable.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's, we encountered a similar thing when we were following Brendan Dassey through the habeas courts. So that was pretty painful. Now there was how many cases in all were they kind of poking into of your old cases?
Well, they
roughly
essentially two, arguably three, but it filtered into multiple other cases. In Megan's case, what they did to incriminate her was just egregious. Again, she was at work, and so once they realized that she in fact was at work and she couldn't have been the offender, their next step was to subject her to a polygraph. So they had Megan come in on a Saturday, which was absolutely unheard of. So they that meant overtime for a polygrapher. It meant overtime for detectives. It meant opening up an office that wasn't normally open. But
it would be an empty office, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, they opened it up, and they did it behind my back, and they exposed her to a polygraph. They gave her a polygraph exam, and they failed her on the central question of whether or not she was the one that inflicted injuries to the baby. Notwithstanding the fact she provably wasn't there at the time the baby sustained these injuries.
Right.
So they failed her, and then they moved forward with this case against her based on this failed polygraph. Keep in mind, I didn't know any of this was going on.
Right.
So they moved forward with this case against Megan based on the failed polygraph. Within a few weeks, they were requested to produce these polygraphs, and of course they couldn't. So the polygraphs disappeared. The recorded interview they did with Megan disappeared. The printout disappeared. The case file magically disappeared, and they replaced a blank CD in that. The polygrapher's report disappeared, and willy-nilly out of the blue, for some unknown reason, the computer that they used to do the polygraph was forensically wiped. Do you understand what that means?
Right. Yeah. More than just putting it in the trash.
They didn't just hit the delete button.
Right.
They erased it, and then they went and rewrote over the hard drive in the binary system, zeros and ones, so nothing could be recovered from it.
Right.
So that's what they did to Megan's polygraph that they couldn't produce.
So that one computer out of all the computers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
all disappeared magically. So then they moved forward with terminating her parental rights based on something that they had fabricated, absolutely 100% fabricated, based on the fact that she had failed this polygraph that didn't exist. And I was subpoenaed as a prosecution witness in that case to terminate her parental rights. And you can imagine my surprise when I received that subpoena. She was innocent. Who am I? I was just the lead detective on the case. And now I'm being subpoenaed for termination of her parental rights, something that I had no idea was even going on.
Right.
So
I was shocked, right? Yeah.
I was shocked. I responded to the subpoena, and I was told by the attorney that they were pursuing terminating her parental rights based on the fact that she had failed the polygraph. Well, at that point in time, I knew that the polygraph had disappeared because it was written in the report that they couldn't produce it.
Right.
So I pointed out to him that, hold on here, this polygraph that you're hanging your hat on doesn't even exist. He was shocked. And what he did was he struck the proceeding. That means he stopped the proceeding that day. He released me as a witness, and I thought it was over with. I thought that I had saved Megan White's parental rights.
Right.
I thought that was the end of it. Still, the baby was in critical condition. He was on life support. It's a tragic, tragic story. Absolutely. But at least you could go see your baby in the hospital.
Right.
I thought that I'd saved that.
Yes.
Oh no. Absolutely not. They reinitiate the proceeding a month or so later, and they just don't subpoena me as a witness. And then they presented the false evidence that they had manufactured in front of the judge, and there was nothing to rebut it because they didn't subpoena the detective. Had no idea what was going on, and they terminated her parental rights. You can't make it up.
Yeah. It seems like there should be some mechanism to prevent that from happening. I don't know. That's wild, though. It's and I mean, the damage that they're doing is all because they're mad at you, right? I mean, it's like, I wonder how they sleep at night, you know, because if they're digging into her case because they were trying to, gaslight you, as you were saying, and doing those types of things, it's just a lot of damage to be doing for their own personal agenda. It's kind of shocking, really. Especially knowing how close, deputies and sheriffs and police officers are, to see that your brothers did that to you is also shocking.
These aren't my brothers, and these aren't my sisters. These are dirty cops.
Right.
These are corrupt individuals. These are individuals that have absolutely no business wearing a badge, and they're doing their dirty work behind the protection of the badge. But I suspect that it's going to be they're going to be exposed in the very near future.
That's good. I hope so. I just, like I say, and I hope that you're able to get in there and to prevent this type of stuff from going on there in the future. I mean, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible that they were doing this. I mean, Megan was probably already torn up enough about this thing, and I mean, they can't even prove she was around. It's like, it's all the points that you're making of why this is such a ridiculous thing for them to be doing. It's
the contrary to what you said. It's not that they couldn't prove that she was around. They themselves proved that she was not around.
Right.
That's not a question of whether she was around or not. They themselves proved that she wasn't around because they themselves pulled her time card. And instead of going back and stopping this false affidavit that they had manufactured, they try to justify it by giving her a polygraph and then moving forward based on the results of the polygraph, which, of course, mysteriously disappeared as well.
Right. Forensically wiped computer, right?
Absolutely.
That's just amazing. It's amazing. So what are, I don't know, some of the maybe other issues there in Hillsborough that maybe you're hoping to maybe see maybe a different method or something change there in terms of the way that things are going now? Like, what would you, maybe one particular or two particular changes you're hoping to see?
Well, one of the first things I would do is I'd bring back accreditation. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is a very large organization. It's one of the largest sheriff's offices in the United States. Mm-hmm. The budget for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is approximately $418 million annually.
Wow.
$418 million annually. So you think an agency of that size would be accredited. And what's the relevance of having an accredited agency? The relevance of having an accredited agency means oversight.
Right.
It means you're not an autonomous agency. It means you can't launch investigations against detectives because you feel like it.
Right.
It means you can't go after somebody because you're upset with them. It means you can't just willy-nilly spend the money on putting your names all over police cars to promote yourself. You can't do those kinds of things because you'll have oversight. But yet that's what we're lacking in the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office is there's no oversight. So they get away with these kinds of things. There's nobody to come back in and look over these investigations that they launch on detectives and deputies who they deem as a threat or a liability. Is
Right.
simply if you don't go along with the illegality, then you're a liability, you're a threat. They manufacture, they contrive a complaint
Right.
against you. They launch the complaint. They themselves investigate it. And then once they deem you guilty, then you have to appeal it before the very people who started it. And of course, you know how that works out.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So obviously, I believe the oversight is necessary. I totally agree with you there, especially when you point out exactly how big the department is.
Yeah.
That is quite a lot. That's quite a lot of money. Quite a lot of funding that comes that way, and I'm sure the taxpayers would feel a lot better knowing that it wasn't just willy nilly, as you're saying. That there's some kind of rhyme and reason, and somebody kind of trying to maintain some, you know, protocols, maybe. So
Absolutely, a professional lawman, as opposed to somebody who just makes it up as he goes along.
right, yes, absolutely. So that would be great. I agree with you on the accreditation. What other maybe one other issue that, or one of the other things you're hoping to do if you get in there?
Right now, we're lacking in patrol. Our patrol deputies are dangerously understaffed. For some unknown reason, we're top heavy. We have a lot of commanders, but not a whole lot of people working patrol right now. So it's going to be reverse when I'm there. Is we're going to fill those patrol positions, and the reason we do that is because that directly impacts the safety of our citizens.
Right.
It reduces response time. It reduces crime. So there are all sorts of good reasons to have patrol fully staffed. And frankly, there aren't a whole lot of good reasons to be overstaffed with brass.
Right.
It is
Yeah.
now.
Okay. So that's okay. So you're gonna look to even that out. So obviously, you know, I don't know how much you have been following along with, you know, some of the Tiger King stuff, but I don't know if you've heard anything. I guess I should ask you that first. Have you heard much about what's going on there with Carol and stuff at all?
I haven't been keeping too up with Carol too much. I do know a little bit. Excuse me. Some of the documents that Jack showed me.
Right.
Based on what I'm seeing, it looks like this is a solvable case. If I had to guess,
Yeah.
I would guess if it gets in the hands of the right detectives, it will be solved.
Right.
He's put together a very compelling case, a very compelling timeline, and I think that there's going to be resolution in this case eventually. Is it going to happen under Sheriff Cronister's regime? I hope so. I certainly hope that he solves the case because that would be good for everybody. But if he doesn't, I suspect that there will be resolution in the very near future.
Right. I know what you mean, and I'm with you on that. But yeah, absolutely. If Sheriff Chronister is able to get to the bottom of it, more power to him.
I'm all for it.
But if he doesn't, yeah, we're happy to see it later as well if we have to wait a little longer. So
we're going to get resolution with this case one way or another.
Right. So, folks, I want to go ahead and let you know that you can check out. Charles Boswell has a website, has a lot of information, a lot of the things that he feels are the issues and stuff. You guys can go check out. It's interesting. I was going through it yesterday. I want to go ahead and get his name, on the lips of people there in Florida. Obviously, as much as we can to create some awareness about what he's trying to do, because I got to say, I really do. I sympathized with Megan White, and I really, am just impressed with you standing up and getting up and wanting to get, the right thing done. I mean, when many other people might have just went, "Oh, brother," and walked away, you're digging in, going, no, this isn't right, and this has to change. And I really admire that. So I want to say, thank you.
There's a time to be politically incorrect. There's a time to say no. And when somebody's illegally terminating a mother's parental rights, that would be the time.
Right. I agree.
I'm not going to go along with this. And you think that more people would have done that.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm shocked that more people didn't do that.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. So folks, Travis posted the link to his website above. I'm gonna put it in the information below the video here afterward. Is there any other things that you wanted to go ahead and let voters know, or people that might be out there listening to let them know right now before
we're up against a Sheriff Chronister is a millionaire. He married into a billionaire family. He basically has an endless supply of money for his campaign. We are a grassroots effort. I'm a professional lawman. I've been a cop my entire adult life. I'm now a retired cop, and I'm getting back into the game because I've been asked to do so. But we need funding to do it. We need funding to stay in the game. So every donation is greatly appreciated, no matter how small it is. So if you're hesitating and thinking, no, I don't want to donate it because it's donate this amount because it's too small, every amount is appreciated. Every amount is another yard sign. It's another flyer, and we will use it. Every dime.
Right. And and you have a link to where people can go do that?
Yes,
that's on your website? Is that
website.
Somewhere a link on your website?
Yes, if you share my website with them, there's a donate link, and they can click on that button, and they can donate right through the website. If you hit that donate link in the website, you can donate right on the website.
It looks like right on the website. Okay, good.
Absolutely.
It's getting a little choppy, so I'm not sure why that is, but okay. So folks, like he said, please, if you can go over even, hey, look, if everybody here in the live chat could go over and donate $2, that would be a pretty good deal, or $5. Like he said, no amount's too small. Really would like to see this guy in that seat, there, doing the right thing, correcting, or doing the best he can to prevent things from like what happened to Megan White. I like your style of justice, your brand of justice, and I wish you well.
Thank you so much.
So, alrighty, folks. It's been a pleasure, Charles. Everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this chat with Charles. Obviously, he feels that the Don Lewis case is solvable. Beyond that, what the issues that he has explained to you today. These are all good reasons why I feel like he's a good candidate for sheriff there. I'd like for you guys to give him out any help you can. Like you said, no donations too small. But even if you're just out there spreading the word and sharing about him on social media and Twitter, sharing his links on Hillsborough, Twitter for Hillsborough businesses, so that people in Hillsborough are going to see his link, and anything we can do to help him and get his name so that people are at least aware of it, folks. Let's do that. Because, like I said, I really like Mr. Boswell and would like to see him be successful here. And if you guys agree with me, let's give him a hand.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. Hey, everybody, you know this drill. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.